So let me just, okay, so I'm going to make my own introduction about this, but let's just skip that. So the ZkProof community reference, or ZkpComRef, right? This is our latest abbreviation that we want everybody to adopt because it's the best and greatest, 2021. So the presentation is going to be given by the editors of the document, which is myself, Luis Brandao from NIST Strativia, and Eran from Columbia and Tel Aviv University. So the outline of the talk is going to be very simple. I'm going to give a bit of an introduction to the document. Luis is going to overview the current state and the process of the document, and then Eran is going to talk about what we're going to actually do in the Writathon and what are the topics that we're going to go through, which I hope you're all excited to work on. So before we start, though, I just want to send you guys to answer a very, very quick poll. It's anonymous, just to see how we've evolved from previous year. So last year, the poll is up. If you don't see the poll somehow popping in your screen, click on the polls or something that you should be seeing it. Last year, we had almost 60% of the people that had just skimmed through it. I guess it's good because we got a lot of people to see it. It reached a lot of people, but not enough people were interested in it. There was still 20% of the participants at ZKProof, or at least statistically, that did not actually look at it ever. And 20% that had read it significant portion. So that's pretty good in our opinion. I'm gonna give, so 80% of you voted. Please try to vote if you didn't get a chance. Let's give 10 more seconds and then we'll close it. Okay, 3, 2, you have one last chance to answer. Okay, so end the poll. You should be seeing the, oh wait, share results. You should be seeing the results now. So how do they compare? We have 20%, 22% that read significantly, which is basically exactly the same. We have 44% that read, that skimmed through it, and 34% that did not read it. Okay, well, we're going to take these results and think a bit about what it means. It could be by many possibilities, but yes, thank you so much for answering to the poll. Continuing, what is the ZkProof community reference, right? It's really a collaborative document that serves as a reference for the development of zero-knowledge proof technology, right? It covers theoretical aspects such as definitions, security, schemes, etc., as well as the practical side of things, including implementations and all the issues that come up with implementations and applications, right? It is actually a live document, and we hope that it will continuously updated throughout the years by the community, right? And it is important to say that it is not a document in itself, it's not a standard, right? It's a reference, maybe best practices and things like this. We try to recommend when we know that everybody agrees with that kind of recommendation, but we try to not recommend when we know that there is still room for improvement or changes, etc. So do you remember Alice in Wonderland from last year? I don't know if you were there, but she's back, right? And what Alice wanted was simply have some kind of an educational tutorial to enter the field of zero knowledge. She wanted some kind of agreed upon guidelines to build around an inclusive community and to have a dynamic document to ensure it be up to date, and she was able to kind of follow the work, right? And this is what we aim to have from the reference document. Now, there are two kinds of parties that you can be as you approach the reference document. First of all, you could be a consumer of it, in which case we believe that you could be a learner because you're on onboarding, you're researching some applications that you want to use, understand some trade-offs, things like this. You could be a mentor because you want, and a professor or manager that you're suggesting material for guidance. Or you could be an evaluator, you're working on a specific system and you want to see whether it's secure, what's the state of the art, etc. On the other hand, or as well as, you could be a contributor. And I hope many of you will come out today being actual contributors. And in this case, you want to integrate, either your own research or experience or conclusions from working with your knowledge systems, or you want to kind of convey knowledge, recommendations and warnings and things like this. At this point, we can also add that you can simply share some of the vision that you have or the ideas that you share, and the community will work around that to make it even more advanced, right? If you fear that you don't have all the knowledge to include. This is not the case, right? Today, we hope everybody will contribute. Now, very quickly, the reference document has its roots on the first ZkProof workshop, actually, where we worked during 2 days. We had actually, the first Writathon was the first workshop. During the 3 days, the 2 days of the workshop, there were 3 working groups that worked nonstop to build these 3 documents. A security track proceeding, an implementation track proceeding, and applications track proceeding. This was, around 80 pages of work, very important stuff, and it kicked off the standardization effort, right? For the version 0.1 of what is today the ZkProof community reference, we actually worked together with NIST, with Luis and Angela and Rene, who are here today, and they helped us transform the 3 documents in Google Doc to LaTeX and include a lot more, formalisms and improve the content, etc. And also create a process that is today, the editorial process of ZkProof community reference, which Luis may share a little bit later. And last year, and by the way, this was in the second workshop, which was in person at Berkeley. And this last year, for the third workshop, we published the 0.2 version of the community reference, right? And today up until today, we've been working a lot on that, on improving that version, but also sort of pushing the boundaries in many other ways, right? We'll also get into that. So our hope is that after the work that we're going to do in this workshop and in revisions and feedback, we'll be able to publish a 0.3 version, right? And of course, the vision is to get to a 1.0 that everybody feels is acceptable to be published, etc. And I just want to say again, one more time, thank you so much to everybody that contributed to this document, because it's extremely meaningful work. We have over 60 contributors. If I am missing your name here, please contact me right now at some point throughout this workshop. The current editors, as I said, are Luis, Eran, and myself. And today you're all gonna have the chance to become part of this list, right? So hopefully this will be a great experience for everyone. And just a final question. Now that you know a little bit more about the document, what do you think about the ZkProof community reference? Please answer on the chat. Go for it. Do you love it? Did you check it out? It's not useful. You think it will be useful in 10 years? Please give us your thoughts. I think it's going to be very important for us. In the meantime, I'm going to let Luis take over so that he can actually present his slides. So Luis, please go ahead. And I'm not seeing anybody in the chat talking, so go for it.
Okay, can you hear me well and see the slides?
Yes, Luis.
Okay, great. So hello everyone. Thank you for being here. So I'll be giving a very brief overview over the current state and process. And contrary to previous presentations where we try to give a thorough account of all the things that there are to do and all that, this time we're going to try to focus on a few important aspects. Okay, let me start by mentioning before focusing that we actually have a lot of resources out there. So there's the ZkProof community reference document itself, which is a compiled PDF. Then we have GitHub, where we keep the open source code in LaTeX. We have a number of GitHub issues that mention many of the improvements that we believe the ZkProof community reference should suffer. And we also keep an account of the differences between versions. We have issued a number of calls for comments and contributions. The last one was in August. And we currently have an overleaf document where we are doing some development on the paradigms chapter. That's something I'll be talking about in the next few minutes. There's, of course, the ZkProof webpage. For some time, we used the forum to make announcements of new content. It hasn't been used that much in the past year. And then, of course, we have the workshops, which ends up being the moment where we all come together and, again, try to put in some motivation. Okay, before actually going to the document, let me just start also with a slide on some motivation. And I think there's a very pertinent question, which is, why should we care about the community reference? Namely, I mean, many people in the audience are researchers, maybe doing the next great paper, which is going to advance ZkProofs, and maybe the community reference is really not the place where you're putting that work. As Daniel said, it's also not a standard on its own. And for what matters, it's not even a finished document at this point, right? So why should we care? Well, it does have a number of potential utilities, namely as we consider a wider community. So this is a reference that indeed serves the point of bringing us together over a joint effort. So it can allow us to settle on terminology, interfaces, learn about motivating applications that we would not know if we would not come together. Also, I think it's important to remember that there is a part of the community, maybe a minority in this workshop, I would guess, which would be people that can benefit from zero-knowledge proofs, but they are not necessarily researchers and they are not implementers. So you can think of people that may have the job of thinking about privacy policies. Well, if they don't know about zero-knowledge proofs, they're going to think about that aspect in a different way. We have vendors and consumers, even standardization bodies who may be thinking about what is the next thing that should be standardized. Also, the fact that we're getting together and building a collaborative document is an evidence on its own that zero-knowledge proofs are a relevant technology for the future. Okay, so all of this is a vision which is going to be increasingly, progressively achieved, and we are all invited to be part of it. Okay, so now for the state of things. So in last workshop, May of 2020, we had a presentation where we motivated the review of the current version, 0.2. By July, we received about 7 sets of comments, and then based on that, in August, we issued a call for contributions. Now, in a very brief summary, 2020 was a tough year for reasons we all know, and in practice, we did not receive any contribution after this call for contributions. And in January, the three of us, Daniel, Eran, and myself, kind of reflected, okay, should we be doing something different in terms of promoting the editorial improvement of the document? And so one of the things we thought was, okay, maybe it's time for us to put our hands a little bit more to work. Let's choose a particular topic. We chose the paradigms chapter. Let's select some existing material. Let's tweak it to make it suitable for the community reference. And then when we're close to something that is going to definitely be part of the next version, let's ask for feedback for improvements. And here we are, already April. We're bringing this aspect of the paradigms and also a number of other topics for the Writathon. And hopefully by December, we will have version 0.3. We said this last year about past December. Let's see if this year we really make it. Okay, I want to focus on 2 main observations that we believe are very substantial and important. One of them is the realization that the current draft still conveys a very poor intuition about how to actually achieve zero-knowledge proofs. And so the solution we sought for this was, let's work on the paradigms chapter. Now repeating myself a little bit, let's find some external work that has already been done. We chose some blog posts that meanwhile Yuval Ishai has made and published on the ZkProof website. And we, upon talking with him, we organized the content in the perspective of making it part of the community reference. And so currently we can say that what is today section 2.1, which is a taxonomy in the community reference, is going to be replaced by 4 new sections that are going to make a more clear explanation of information theoretical proof systems, how they can then be compiled into real systems using cryptographic compilers, and then having a description on how to actually achieve a concrete zero-knowledge proof schemes. We've now very recently actually asked for contributions by a number of contributors, and this is still ongoing work, and definitely this is going to be part of version 0.3. Here's one diagram, a mind map that is still a draft. So if you find something that is missing, please let us know. That makes an account of existing IT proof systems. Again, thanks to Ival Ishai, who gave us a lot of feedback in the design of this mind map. And this is one example of what we're going to have in the new community reference. So we're going to have a section on information theoretical systems, one section on crypto compilers, one section about zero knowledge proof systems. I just put here on the lower right corner a little index of the sections. This is a document that is ongoing. No time to see it in this presentation, but everyone is invited to take a look at it. And the ACMD links have then a description on how you can get to this document. Okay, observation number 2 out of 2. The current community reference has a low visual appeal. There's a lot of text, and there's actually one image somewhere, but practically there's no images. And this is really actually bad for a large portion of the intended audience that is not going to read this as a typical paper. So our envisioned solution is, let's make sure we add like 20 or 40 or maybe even 80 diagrams and figures to illustrate every important concept, maybe every IT proof system, every crypto compiler, every security game, several examples, etc. There are many topics to choose from, and then Eran is going to show one of the sessions of the Writathon is going to be about that. Let me give another example, again, using this diagram. We have a lot of acronyms here. Somebody looks into this. Okay, so now we have a bunch of types of PCPs, linear PCPs, fully linear PCPs. If it's the first time we're looking at this, how do we distinguish them? Are we going to have to read pages and pages about this? Why should we have to do that if often we have good presentations that actually can convey a good intuition in just a minute or so? Well, we should be able to add images like we have in presentations. Here I'm using some examples from Ilet's presentation last Thursday. So our call to you is, for sure, there's dozens of people here that have worked hours and hours to build beautiful diagrams and illustrations for your presentations. Consider submitting them, proposing them for the community reference. Okay, so upcoming to version 0.3, we'll have a developing write-up about paradigms, and we're going to have a bunch of contributions that are going to be initiated in the Writathon. And in the interest of time, I'm going to skip this slide, and I'm going to advance to the last one to give room to Eran. And so let me just finish by saying that there is definitely a value in aiming for a community reference, even if that value is distinct from what you get with your latest paper or with a standard. Now, of course, there are inherent challenges that we need to solve, and that's the reason why we have an editorial process. Of course, we want to avoid that this is a document where we just pile up all the information available. We need to ensure a proper filtering. We have to ensure uniform styling and a number of other elements. We've updated our editorial approach so that we can ask for more focused requests rather than tackling everything at the same time. And again, as a final notion, the community reference is a vision. This is being iteratively built, and hopefully with the collaboration of everybody, we'll manage to have something good and eventually reach version 1.0. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll pass the floor to Eran.
Okay, can you hear me and see my slide?
Yes.
All right. Thanks, Luis. And thanks to everyone who've been contributing to the ZkProof community reference and other documents throughout the past several years. I'm grateful for all the work that's been done, for all the contributions of many forms and shape, including the major conceptual ones like Yuval Ishai's, as well as many small ones that just make things clear. We do realize, however, that some parts of the document are best advanced just by using the full force of the community. Things that worked very well when we sat together in joint rooms, if you may remember that before the pandemic. We sat down and deliberated on what would be the best things for us to sit down virtually today and bolster. Things that are very much on practitioners and theoreticians' mind and yet not properly covered by the community reference, and just requires very diverse perspectives. We came up with 6 topics. Let me enumerate these and then tell you how we're going to pursue them today. The first one is systematic enumeration of concrete schemes. This complements the paradigm discussion that is also that Louis just described. But beyond the general paradigms, we want to just enumerate the specific schemes that are presented in papers and implementations, say how they relate to the paradigms, and very succinctly say where to find them and what are the high-level properties.
Eran, we don't see the slide if you changed it.
Thank you.
There you go.
So that would be the concrete schemes section. That would be covered in one breakout. Another breakout would cover applications. We already enumerate 3 at high level, but also great verbosity. We want to add additional general application scenarios. Doesn't need to be very short. Brief is good, actually. But ZkProof has been used for many new problems. Let's make sure that someone who's catching up using the community reference can do so succinctly. And then there are the specific systems in the real world, specific deployments that have been relying on ZK to solve various problems and are actually used by human beings, whether in blockchain or otherwise. We want to enumerate them and to tell people what tools they choose, why they use that scheme, what's the resulting performance, did they have a trusted setup, what are the lessons learned, basically to let practitioners pattern match and see what's similar to their case and what could have been done better when they build new applications. So if there's a system that you build, you're very proud of, you'd like to tell the world, you want to make the world to avoid some mistakes, this is your chance. The 4th session is about snark-friendly primitives, all the cryptographic primitives, hash functions, and so forth that are optimized for use within the constraint system of general-purpose snarks. We actually started a working group on that aimed to create a very in-depth separate document. While that's progressing, let's create a short one within the community reference. Then there are the interfaces, formats, interoperability, APIs, constraint system definitions. That section has fallen out of date. There's been a lot of progress on formats and such. Let's bring it up to speed. And lastly, but crucially, visual aids, diagrams and illustrations, as Luis described. You could definitely use some of these, and if you have the skill, please show up and help with that. But how do you show up? Well, as it turns out, today we're going to have 2 breakout sessions interspersed between other talks. The first one will start in about 25 minutes. Then we'll take a break, have another interesting talk, and start the second session. These will be 6 parallel breakout rooms. Choose whichever one you want to show up in and just participate. At the very end, we'll have brief 1-minute summaries from each of the 6 rooms. So if you are there in a room towards the end, please work with your colleagues to find out who will take the minute to present. The actual editing will be done in HackMD. We decided on that rather than Overleaf because it's lighter weight and doesn't have compilation issues like LaTeX. We'll later migrate to LaTeX for the actual community reference, but let's keep it simple. The links to the HackMD documents are in the ultimate links, the same one we've been using all along. Just search for breakout. There will be 6 links in there. So show up in any room you want, look at the template, feel free to edit and change, but if you're doing things that may affect others, like changing the template, please coordinate. That's what the breakout rooms are for. Just speak up, coordinate verbally. And I'll mention that in parallel to these 6 breakout rooms, there will be a tutorial given by Partush on Arcworks and how to use it in ZK that has 2 additional breakout rooms, one for the presentation, one for one-on-ones. If you have to miss the tutorial in order to participate in the Writathon, be assured that the tutorial is also in written form on GitHub, and the link is on the ultimate list of links. So I'm really eager to see the rapid progress we'll be making by the end of today and all of the follow-ups later. But in the meanwhile, let me hand it over to Pratyush. After the
Thank you, Eran. Sure. Do you mind stop sharing? Okay.